this is open pollinated versus hybrids versus heirlooms. Heirlooms, that's a buzzword, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a little cocky about heirlooms. I got an attitude. I'm part of the kind of original group going back 40 years or more where we actually did have heirlooms. There were heirlooms. If you look at the Webster's, heirloom means something passed hand to hand. Okay? Today, heirlooms are big business. Most of them are not heirlooms. They're commercial varieties now. Because once an heirloom gets into commercial circulation, it's not an heirloom, it's a commercial circulated plant, okay? And so, I mean, there still are a few heirlooms here or there out there yet, but by and large, there was a time, heirlooms would qualify either as local indigenous varieties, crops the Indians had in the native Southwest, or crops, say, from Appalachia that were held by people in the mountains and so on, or Amish. The Amish had a huge group of heirlooms. The Brandywine tomato, the most famous heirloom there is. That was at one time an Amish heirloom plant, that only the Amish passed it between themselves, you know. And even certain varieties of Brandywine went to the Sudeth family, so it's the Sudeth strain Brandywine and so on, you know, little different races of it and so on. Well, basically Brandywine really isn't an heirloom anymore because almost any seed catalog there is that sells tomatoes has got them. All right, so it's not an heirloom, all right? It still has the same qualities, and it's probably one of the best tasting tomatoes there is. And there are a number of plants actually out there in the heirloom category that are really, really good plants. Really good plants as far as I'm concerned. But heirlooms would have either been hand-to-hand or, in a lot of cases, years ago, they were things that fell out of commercial circulation. There were a lot of things that fell out of commercial circulation, and so they were held by private people, you know. And so that's an heirloom, and in the group, Jimmy Nardello's sweet pepper. It's no longer an heirloom, but it used to be, and that is a really good pepper. Brandywine, especially the Sudeth strain, outstanding tomato. Hard to grow here, doesn't really work very well in California, originates in Ohio and Pennsylvania, everything's different there, you know, but it's a really good tomato. There's a number of different hard corns, if you grind corn, that are heirloom, that are really good, like Nostein Dent or Mandan Bride. So there are some really good plants in that group. Some that are nearly heirlooms, things like the tall telephone pea, the alderman, that's almost non-existent in the seed catalogs today. It almost qualifies as an heirloom and well worth the effort to grow it. It is so good. I mean, 11 peas to a pod, ultra sweet, vines up to 8 feet tall. You don't have to bend over to pick the thing. It's just great. They bred all the peas down for machine pickers, you know.
What was the name?
Tall telephone or alderman. Yeah, it's around yet. You can still find it if you look hard enough. Territorial seeds maybe or something like that. It's got it. Anyway, so otherwise there are the open pollinateds, okay? And open pollinated is a plant that will reproduce itself from seed successfully and be true. Open pollinateds I'm totally hot on because I save my own seed, have most of my life. In fact, I firmly believe in open pollinateds when they work for you, because if you have a plant that works, you like it, it tastes good, you keep replanting the seed from the plant, hopefully you've been selecting from the better, stronger plants and so on all the time, you know, and hopefully maybe you share it with your friends so it becomes heirloom so you can kind of get some of their gene pool back every once in a while. You want to have a big enough group of seeds if you're going to do open pollinated, that's the point. You can get inbred, okay? So you want to have a big enough group of seeds to maintain a strain, but after a while a plant will adapt to the region that it's grown in. I have a French pole bean called Vortex that I've been raising for 40 years now, and you can buy it. Johnny Selected Seeds has it in the catalog. I highly recommend you do buy it if you haven't grown it, or you come pester me for some seed. My seed is probably better than Johnny's because it's been 20 years in the bay here, growing in these soils under these conditions, and it seems to me that every year the bean does better than it did the previous year, because it's the survivors that make it through every year, you know, and it begins to kind of adapt to the climate. after a while. And that's one of the points of open pollinated vegetables. Most breeders don't like them because you can't control them. Once a guy gets an open pollinated seed, he's got it. No terminator genes, none of that stuff. And so you can't make as much money off of them as you can off hybrid varieties. Hybrid varieties, also again, I have to buy the seeds if I want them, but I love them. I mean, early girl tomatoes are hybrid. Okay, I don't know who grows early girl. Yeah, most of you, right? It's a good tomato. Just because it's a hybrid, I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. Hybrids, they're great. Grow them, and in fact, in some cases, I have found that hybrid seed will produce pretty good open pollinated progeny. I've got a few that I like the hybrid so much, I went ahead and I tried saving the seed from the thing and went and planted it and found that sometimes they're pretty good. They'll produce a crop that looks a whole lot like the parent plant. Maybe they're a little uneven. Sometimes the fruit size varies a bit, but it is entirely possible to create an open pollinated strain out of a hybrid. I have a few, okay? But nevertheless, hybrids do have that vigor, which is the whole point of growing the vegetables, is so you're getting a big crop of delicious fruit. And I don't care whether it's a hybrid or what in the heck it is. If you don't get enough tomatoes to make spaghetti sauce, what was the point? Really.
Also, they tend to have more disease resistance, don't they?
Absolutely. And with crops like tomatoes that are quite susceptible to diseases, they're a real plus. That's nasty to get almost to the point where you're looking like you're going to have a great crop of tomatoes and the whole thing goes down from verticillium wilt.
Yeah, and the thing that if you plant tomatoes in the same place year after year, you will have verticillium wilt.
Absolutely, crop rotation is essential. Yeah, so the hybrids, as you said, yes, they have the resistance to many diseases, and if you've had disease problems, you probably want to look at hybrids, not heirlooms. Some crops like beans around here don't get too much disease, okay? That's not too bad, so that's different.